Alrighty, folks, welcome to our Tuesday live stream. It is March 19th, and Self Reliance Festival is 2 weeks away, John.
Yep.
Are you ready?
No, I'm never ready for it.
Neither am I at this time. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. And I thought today would be a great day to have the world-renowned famous Alyssa on the show. Alyssa, why should people know who you are?
I think we're having me on the show because we're going to talk about how Self Reliance Festival is going to change your life, and I recommend that you be there. But I'm excited to share a couple different people's stories today. So,
well, tell us first, like, who's Alyssa? What do you do for work? What are those? How are you even? Like, how did you end up on a Tuesday live? Because I know you and I met almost exactly a year ago in person for the first time.
Yeah, so let me backtrack all the way to 2020 on that one, actually. 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people, and I was no exception on that one. And I ended up getting semi-furloughed from my job at the time, so I was working 2 on 1 off, which was a really weird schedule for me, and it meant I had a lot of time alone. And one day I hopped on Spotify and I just typed in farm in the search bar for podcasts because I was like, I need somebody's voice to get me through this because I can't do this by myself anymore. I had just purchased the house I'm in now in November of 2019, so we were doing a lot of renovation work. And in that search, a Farmish Kind of Life podcast came up with Amy Dingman. So shout out to her. You should go listen to her. And at some point, she and you did a podcast together called The Spicy Sisters. I'm really picky on whose voices I'll listen to on podcasts. And your voice was like, I was like, this is good. I can listen to her. Like, she tells good stories. So I hopped over to the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. I binged through probably the majority of your backlog that was available on Spotify in the course of a couple of weeks. Just like desperate for voices of people who were sane because it felt like the world was falling apart. That was the summer that I grew an obscene number of tomatoes, and all my neighbors referred to me as the tomato lady. I just fell in love with the concept of small scale homesteading. I live on a lot that's measured in feet, not acres. So we condensed and I stole most of the yard, and I just figured out how to grow food, taught myself how to can, and kept hearing about Self Reliance Festival as you guys were developing that over the course of the years following, and how you still did your Living Free in Tennessee meetup or your conference in 2020. I think you did it in June. Yeah, just desperate for community, for people. Started connecting on Telegram when you started the Telegram group, and finally talked my husband into going to Self Reliance Festival in spring of last year because we were already going to Florida to visit some of our friends. So I was like, hey, it's on the way. Like, we're not even going to leave the track. We just have to leave a couple days early. We can go. And we showed up and we camped in our car through a tornado because that was the Self Reliance Festival of the tornado. It's a great experience, actually. I think like that was one of the most bonding things for the whole group, especially all the people who camped, like being able to share like, this is what happened last night, this is what happened in our tent, resurrecting the circus tent the next morning. Like, those are the type of memories that you build into a community that you want to have. So yeah, that's how I ended up at Self Reliance.
You know, the corner that our community turned at that event happened that night.
Yeah.
Where it's funny how the spirit of the event completely went through a switch. And ever since then, it's been a lot more solutions oriented. I mean, it was always solutions oriented, but there was a lot more I've got your back, like 100% got your back going on after that, because I think, well, it's frightening to do that. I also know there are shelters you can go to in Camden if there's ever weather like that again. So I made a list of those in case it ever happens, because in a tent during a tornado is not the best place to be. And that would be a night you might want to say, like, I'm going to go sleep at this shelter for the night and then I'll be back in the morning if that kind of weather's coming. But we had to re-erect the giant event tent as well without hurting anybody, without ripping the tent. And the team just like showed up and did it. It was done.
So what did you think when you got here, having listened to all of Nicole's podcasts and having heard the couple of years lead up to the event that you attended? Once you got here, was it how you pictured it, or was it smaller? Was it larger? Like what was your first impressions of that?
Yeah, so I came with the intent of volunteering because volunteering for events like that tends to give you better access to the people leading them. And I hate being bored. I hate sitting around. So I wanted to be in a place where I could help with stuff and people would give me things to do. And then I also just wanted access to people. Like I wanted to get to know people. I wanted to just be able to glean information. So I showed up a day early. We arrived Thursday night. Part of coming to Self Reliance Festival was also meeting the Bear Independent team because I've been following them and I wanted to know if they were who they said they were. So I walked, yeah. And I knew your front door for your shop because of social media. And so we showed up, we found the door. I was like, I got it. We can do this. And my husband had not listened to any of y'all's stuff at that point. So he's like, okay, well, go then. Like, figure out if we're in the right place. And like pulled myself together, opened the door, and I walked straight into the middle of you and like 3 or 4 of your guys, and then the entire refuge medical team was just like standing right inside the door. You're all strapped. It was this deadpan, like, what is this woman doing in our shop?
No,
face.
It wasn't.
Like this look, and I was like, this is where I'm gonna die. Like I drove to the middle of nowhere in Tennessee, and this is it. Like I'm going to meet strangers from the internet. My mother warned me about this. So it was a good, like, I clearly didn't die. Got to shake hands with everybody, got to get to know people a little bit more on Friday. The event itself was amazing. Speakers just like incredibly high quality. People jumped in to help with different things. It was really cool to see people recognizing each other and appreciating what was being done. There were a couple times where I laughed at people because they were like, where are all the chairs that we're supposed to get? And I was like, dude, did you not read that it's Self Reliance Festival? Have you read any of the emails? There are not chairs.
We have some chairs now, but yeah, if you can bring a chair, bring a chair.
Good thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm opposed to chairs. It is the Self Reliance Festival.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, honestly, there was a ton of people. I carried my camera around for the entire weekend, which is usually a good icebreaker with people. If you have something that you're decent at that's visible, it just breaks the ice and starts conversations. A lot of the vendors were really cool. You had a fitness guy there who was doing like fit tests for people. That was really fun.
That was SHTF Fitness.
Yeah, he was cool
this year. We talked last year, he was double booked, but hopefully we'll see him again this year.
Yeah, and just like giving people the opportunity to test in on that, because that's one of the prepper things that I think is really overlooked. And to have someone who kind of fits in the prepper community, but also was like, hey, can you carry this sandbag across the parking lot? Yeah, I think people complain too much about not having people like them in their corner. And sometimes you just have to leave your corner to find those people. And you did Nicole, you did a activity at the last day, like after the raffle drawing, where you had different people stand up and like, which state are you in? Now find each other. We actually started a Telegram chat for the Wisconsin and like Minnesota border people that day at Self Reliance. And we don't use it a whole ton, but now I have a connection with like, I think it's probably 10 or 12 people that are in a 3-hour radius of me. Like in desperation, you have people. And yeah, we drove 12 hours to get to Camden and met people who were literally an hour from us.
When did you realize that you'd made the right decision?
When I didn't die after I walked in your door.
When did the light switch change where you realized that you were accepted and you belonged there?
Probably, I think Dawn made a huge difference in that, just like making sure that we were engaged and able to help and feeling useful, but then also feeling really appreciated. She really helped Logan come out of his shell as well, and just giving him tasks that he could handle by himself, and then getting him to start directing people, which at that point was not something that he did a whole lot, and now he does pretty much full time. Like, since coming back from that, he started training people at work. He's one of the foremen on his team. He's directing a build on his own right now. My husband does general contracting and builds houses, for context. So I think that was also just really helpful to see leadership in action and to see that he could do it. Wake up.
Oh,
sorry.
You got the dream barks happening.
If they're not in the office, they'll bark out the window, but then they fall asleep in the office.
Was there a point when your husband looked at you and said you were right?
Yeah, Saturday night.
What do you think? What was the catalyst? Was it one thing, or was it just an accumulation of all of it?
An accumulation. We were sitting in the back of the tent listening to the karaoke, like, and just people having fun. And we spent most of the weekend with the Fortress Canine team, just really connected well with them, playing cards and petting dogs, which is where I prefer to be. And I think he just realized how much people in the community genuinely want to be friends, like friends that mean it and want to talk about things that are important and not surface level, like how's the weather and how's your mom type of conversations, and like actually want to talk about what are you doing in business, what are you doing to make your life better, what are your successes, what are your failures, how can we help each other.
Yeah. So you left Self Reliance Festival, and I understand you put a bite suit on.
I did, yeah.
Tell us about that. So you left and you went to Florida.
Yep. Yeah, I was already going to the Orlando area. Our best friends live north of Orlando, and so we were going to see their new house. And we connected really well with the Fortress Canine team. I would say there's like key relationships with the Fortress Canine team, you and the Holler community, specifically Steve and Tracy. And so we went to Self Reliance Festival only having booked like accommodations to get there and then to get to our friends in Florida. And I was like, we're going to make it home however we make it home, but I'm not going to plan this because I want to leave the door open, which is very much not me. I'm normally like micromanaged, planned to the letter. We have everything scaled out type of person. So from Self Reliance Festival, we drove down to Orlando, and then that Friday, so like 6 days later, I had asked Joel if it was okay if we came and saw his facility, just because he's a business leader. He's a go-get-em kind of guy. He runs a cool enterprise, and he does what he loves. And you can tell that he does what he loves based on how he presents himself, but just the pride he has in his work. And so we went down, and yeah, he let me put the bite sleeves. We did a lot of young dog work, but I also got to take a couple of the puppies out and do their first bite initiatives, like getting them to bite. Got chewed on by, I don't know, maybe like 15 or 20 dogs. We ran through all the dogs. They don't generally have women who are willing to put the sleeves or the suit on. And so he wanted to leverage that opportunity. And he warned me that I was going to be a little bit uncomfortable if I kept pushing it, because I was having a lot of fun. And I'm a fairly fit person, and I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, I'm going to be fine. Like, this is fine. This is not that hard. Man, the next morning I woke up and it felt like I had done like an I can't feed myself workout. Like, every push-up muscle in my body was throbbing. I also was a little bit of an idiot and got too close at one point, and so I had a nice like bruise up my arm because I got myself tagged. But yeah, that was an incredible experience, and just to sit with him afterwards and like, what's important to you in business? Why these dogs? Like, how are you going to grow? What's your scale model? And just learning from people, because the best way I think to learn from people is to be in their space. If you can get them where they're comfortable and where they're doing what they love, they're more willing to talk to you about what they're doing and why they love it, because it's not something they have to dig around in their memory for. They're doing it, they're seeing it. And so I feel like they pull that sort of information out a lot more easily. Yeah, so we did that, and then we were down there for like a week and a half, and then I had asked Steve and Tracy at Self Reliance if we could crash at their place on the way home. And so on the way back, I was like, I'm going to go camp in their yard. And we showed up, and they were like, no, you're not. So they put us in their guest room, and it was just another moment of meeting strangers from the internet. Like, showed up at Joel's place. He's got dog signs plastered everywhere, like open this gate and you'll die signs. It's great. And then it showed up in like middle of nowhere, Tennessee, which is fantastic if you're from Tennessee, which I am not. And then the people that you just met 2 weeks ago are like, oh yeah, you can sleep in the guest room. Like, you're either really friendly or I'm not going to make it out of here.
I mean, you met their dogs, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think they were worried.
No, I don't think nobody was worried. I think it was good. I mean, we've stayed with them since then too, when we ripped out your floor, and we love them. Like, they're great people. And Logan made the comment the last time we were through Tennessee that Steve and Tracy are like the family members that you can just pick right back up with. Like, you show up and it's like you didn't skip a beat. They're like, we still love you, and this is still great, and how's all the things? And that's the type of community that I want to have, even if it's spread out the way it is, like Florida, Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Yeah, they moved to the holler temporarily about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
They were going to be here for 4 to 6 months. And there's been a low grade marketing effort to try to get them to decide to just be near here all the time. But eventually they're going to go to their own property that they buy and probably build on it. So I'm not mentally ready for that to happen, because they've been such a great addition to the holler neighbors. And yeah, we'll be sad.
I'll be sad when they leave.
All I need is for their kids to decide they want to live closer to the holler, and then maybe they'll stay near the holler. But yeah.
Are you guys adding a Fortress canine puppy?
I really want to. We have 2 dogs already, and having an equal number of dogs to humans tends to work well for us. Logan's rebuttal to my petitions for Fortress canine dogs are that once I get a Fortress dog, I will never buy not Fortress dogs. He's correct. And so I'm not going to argue against that, but I think he wants to wait until we're ready to take on that level of dog.
Cool.
Because right now I have a couch potato and then our guard dog, and our guard dog is only 3. So she's got a lot of years left to do her job.
Yeah, I'm in the same. I don't have a Fortress dog here either because of that.
Yeah, we will. We eventually will.
Have you been following his build out in Ohio? He's moved on to Bob's place there.
Yeah, I've been watching his reels, and like he designed the platform dog houses. Like, I need that immediately. So that's on my build list for our new place.
Very cool.
Yeah, those dog houses are cool. And I was like, that's a way better solution than everybody in a room with doors. Yeah.
So how much property is the new place?
Yeah, so we're moving to Oklahoma next month at some point. The property that we got is 42 acres.
Wow.
It's definitely going to be a build property for us. The current house is a double wide, which I don't have anything against double wides, but I do have something against mobile homes when it's my first tornado season, because tornadoes are not a thing where I live. So I would like something that's bolted down to a foundation. So we're going to build a small to tiny home over the summer, and move into that so we can sell the trailer, and we'll do a slow build on a full-size permanent house.
So you went home from Self Reliance Festival after having done a walkabout where you ended up interacting with the community, and you were one of the first people after that SRF to write me an email.
Really?
And you wrote me the kind of email I love to get, which I did. I forwarded it to John. We forwarded a lot of emails like that, so I'm not sure if he remembers it specifically. But I was like, hey, and you said, I have a new lease on life, and I just decided to go for it and start my own thing. And this is what has happened since then. And his first question to me was, what's the name of her business? Because he wanted to go check you out, right? And probably drop a comment on your social media or see what you were doing. So tell us about how that sort of bloomed from there, because you probably built a business one of the fastest out of, Evan Dixon actually built one pretty fast too, out of SRF, just following, because it was weeks, not months.
Yeah. Well, I was borderline unemployed when we came to Self Reliance Festival, so I had the time. I had quit my job in 2021. I worked in customer service, which is enough to take anybody out after COVID. And I was doing wedding photography as a subcontractor and some house cleaning, home maintenance stuff, just to kind of keep myself busy, but doing just a lot of work on our house. And I knew I liked construction and home management, and Logan has worked in construction since forever. And so coming back in March, at Self Reliance Festival, we decided we were going to run with this and see what we could do, see what we could build as far as a business, what that was going to look like. And so on that trip, we wrote a business outline. We drive everywhere. Not a huge fan of flying, so we had a lot of windshield time, and wrote out what we wanted our core values to be, what we didn't want to do, because there's definitely things in the construction industry that are kind of toxic, and then what our baseline goals were going to be. And so starting in March, we wanted to be really conservative because we did not have a grasp of what business looked like. And we said, if we can hit 25,000 gross for the 2023 year, we'll be happy. We can buy equipment then, because it was going to be super part-time for him and it was going to be part-time for me. So really low expectations. We hit that in 2 months.
Yep.
We doubled it.
Especially knowing where you focused. I'm like, yeah.
We hit the double the 1st of September, I think. And then we walked out triple that. And so we definitely spent a ton of that reinvesting in the business. We have spent a lot of money on tools, which is good because now we have them. And I will say that was one of the things that I'm glad that we did, was just reinvested. We've poured money back into having the equipment to do things right. And because of that, we do things faster. And the faster you do contract work, the more you get paid. So in an effort to get better, we just invest in getting better. I still have no idea what I'm doing. We got a logo done. We got business cards. We got kind of the normal stuff, but we have very limited social media presence, partially because I don't like social media development. I've done it off and on, and I like being creative, but just the concept of having so much of our life out there is not my favorite thing. And also because we don't need to, and also can't generate work from the internet, because we generate so much work from word of mouth that we can't keep up right now. And so in the process of brainstorming scaling, it was either scale up and start employing people, or don't advertise and stay where you're at. And because there's been so much transition in our life, we opted to stay where we're at. I have scaled up to over full time at this point, and he's still working a 40 plus for another contracting company, but he's probably at 15 to 20 hours a week on top of that. So
it strikes me that we have a lot of people in the comments saying, "What I want to start something. What should I start? I want to start something. What should I start?" And we talk a lot about finding your passion, but every time we hear a story, John, about people starting a handyman business or remodeling or construction who do two things: one, show up when they say they're going to, and two, charge the money they say they're going to charge, even if they made a huge mistake in the estimate. They end up in Alyssa's situation very quickly, where, and I have so much work I can't do it.
Every one of them. If you don't have work, it's because you don't want to do it, or you have done something wrong. That's what I tell guys all the time. You can move here and live like a king. You cannot move here and take somebody's job. So if you have construction skills, handyman skills, anything like that, all you have to do is show up when you say you're going to show up, do what you say you're going to do, and be the most expensive person, because perception of value. Do you want to deal with poor customers, or do you want to deal with customers with money? And the customer with money is typically not going to try to negotiate price. They want the time. They want you. They don't care if you're working at 6 a.m. They don't care if you're working Saturday, Sunday. You get the job done. And they have those same friends. Like my buddy Scully here, they own multiple properties. They fly a crew in from San Diego and put them in a hotel for 30 days to work, because we don't have dudes here that do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, and I would add one more thing to that is answer the phone. Contractors around here either don't answer the phone at all, or you leave a voicemail and they don't call you back. And if you call people back, you have work.
Yeah.
And you can also hone that in, because that's one thing that I've been working on getting better at, is just saying no to the things that I don't want to do, because we have the flexibility to do that. I love to paint. I love interior painting, exterior painting. Like, I'm good at it. It's easy. It's easy for me. It's not easy. I found a lot of people hate it. But I just continually say yes to those jobs and continue to develop really positive relationships with those people, because that word of mouth spreads, and then I get more offers for paint jobs. I don't love doing like framing type work. Logan loves it. He's great at it. He bids those jobs. He usually takes the majority of them. We do drywall. I've done a couple years in drywall for another company. He's done 10 years in drywall, so we have a lot of experience there. That's a money maker, not a passion project. We do that because it pays, not because we love doing drywall.
When you do outbuildings, are you brushing, or are you spraying them?
I do a lot of decks, so I do a lot of brush work.
Because when you spray, it typically takes a lot more paint. Is that correct?
My paint sprayer, you cut the paint with either oil or water, depending on what the base is. And so it uses about the same, but it gets everywhere. So if you're trying to do clean lines, like I can't get up against houses, and then you get a difference in density and density color because you brush close to the house and you spray further out. And so I just usually opt for either sponge if it's stain, or I do a brush and roll for paint.
Good info. What color tools did you guys end up primarily with? Like, what do you bought into?
Red. We're Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, I got a ton of. I feel like the fit and finish is better on yellow, though. I have both, and I really try to love Milwaukee. But I swear, if we blind taste tested, I think people would pick the yellow tools. They just the fit and finish of them just seems better.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with DeWalt. I was using cheapo, like Masterforce stuff before we platformed, but we already had, Logan was given his baseline drill set as part of his contract package with his other job, and so we'd already bought into a lot of the M18 and N12 batteries, and I'm just not going to fight the battery war. Like, we're going to have one kind of battery in the house.
100%.
The Milwaukee little shop vac thingy, like you gave me
Badass.
one of those.
Incredible.
Those are way better than anything DeWalt has. I can tell you that from experience.
Yeah, I've got 4 of them in the building. We use
Yeah.
them for hours a day, and they just run, man.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Are you guys still excited when you get to go get a new tool?
Yes.
Like Amanda and I will go, if there's ever a Home Depot, we're always stopping at we're like, pack out. Do you want to look at Milwaukee? And we do. We'll go in there and not even buy anything, and we'll just touch all the Milwaukee tools.
Yeah, we're team yellow in the holler, except for those vacuums and some there's some exceptions on specific tools, which you're supposed to do. You're supposed to choose one battery set and go with it. But I'm like, I just want the tool that works well.
I've got 4. I have 4 colors, and they make adapters too. So if you have a battery, there's an adapter, and if you've got old batteries that are burnt out, you can get a generic that'll replace that right off Amazon, and they're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, we get excited when we get a new type of job, because then it means we get to go buy new toys. So, Logan was very excited to come back with his battery Sawzall the other day and not drag a corded tool 19 feet up in the air. He was thrilled.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool.
Do you do much tile work?
I have only done tile work in my own house. I think we're totally capable of doing tile work. I like doing tile, but stability of houses is a big factor with tile. Like, is your house going to shift? Because I want to be able to stand by my work. So if something cracks or breaks, I want to be able to fix it. And I don't know that I can fix tile yet. I don't have a lot of experience.
We could keep you full-time busy between Nicole's place and my place. I know you're already got a killer deal. So, but if that ever changes, we could, and we have concrete, so our stuff's not shifting.
Yeah. I think long-term play, we might do travel work too, because I really like to travel. And depending on how we build up community and what the network in our new place looks like as far as people being able to watch properties, because here I have a couple of house sitters. It's really easy for me to leave. Moving into a new community, new area, I'm going to have to redevelop my network of capable teenagers to come babysit living creatures. But once I do that, I would like to be able to do some travel work. So I might take you up on that.
I see that Radio Made Easy has just volunteered to put in shelter system in all my tile. You'll be happy to know that I actually have all the heat element and the underlayment. So I will show you where I want the tile laid, Evan, while you're here. We had a man named Tim, and his 14-year-old son and daughter lived in a school bus, and they showed up here, I think unannounced, just showed up in this big army green school bus. And they're like, "We're here to work for you." And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I do anything." And he did. They put the pond in. They built all of my out structures. They did 7 acres of fencing. And holy cow, they worked so fast. These dudes worked 18 hours a day. Like when we had the big excavator in here, they were running 18 hours, 7 days back to back through thunderstorms, putting that pond in and we trenched all the down, like they did all of that. So to have somebody that shows up on target like that, he bounced from here to Wyoming, and I'm like, he's like, "Fencing. Yeah, we put in." I go, "How much fencing?" He's like, "I don't know, thousands of miles, like cattle ranch type stuff." So to get a person that shows up, and it's different, man, when you work with like just a local normal contractor, like when they were building my building out, they drug that thing out for 9 months. Whereas Tim, and then you switch from a contractor to a dude like that shows up, and they do 10 times more work in like a month. It's crazy, just to get somebody that is motivated, and they are there to get the job done, rather than drag it through the winter,
Yeah. Personally, I just want to see the results. Like,
yeah,
if I'm working on something, I want to see it done so I could see what I did. That's part of, honestly, what's making it so hard to sell our house here, is because like this whole place, it's a 1905 farmhouse. It's in town. So, if you're looking in Wisconsin, she goes up on Thursday. But yeah, it's all like 10-inch oak trim. It's solid core doors. We've refinished the whole thing, like down to the studs, but we're not house flippers. We're house restorers. There's a lot of people in the area that do house flips, and honestly, a lot of times it looks tacky. Like, can we find the cheapest trim and the cheapest flooring and do it as quickly as possible, but not put our hearts into it? I love watching people who love what they do, who put their heart into something, because it's such high quality and they do a good job. And I mean, this is the baseline where I've learned how to do a lot of stuff. I didn't start life in a contractor construction family at all. This is not how I grew up. So we've been winging it and learning as we go. And yeah, like the more someone loves doing something, the better they are at it and the faster, because they want to see it done.
But the beauty of, you guys have put your heart and sweat into that house. But the beauty of that is you're about to do another one, and you now know what you didn't know. You're going to do it faster. You're going to do it better. Like, people always ask, what would happen if a tornado hit my building? Well, that'd be perfect, because then I could put the building where I actually want it. Like, we would do the same thing, just better. We would do exactly the same.
Yeah. Imagine, John, how you would build out now if you were just building.
Hell yeah. We'd build down. There'd be 3 stories under the ground.
Can you dig where you are?
I can do anything I want. What do you mean? I own it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Where's your water table?
It's super. Yeah. When we cut I know what you're saying. I'm being a jackass. When we cut the bathrooms, there used to be 6 bathrooms, and we cut the concrete, and it was winter. So we have uphill and the hydraulic pressure coming down. When we opened the slab, water shot up and hit the ceiling in the building. So yeah, I know it. Yeah. We would block it in and put a membrane and, bilge pump and put in gravel for sumps and stuff.
Yeah, you'd have to beaver the whole thing.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting. Well, okay, so you started this thing. You have more work than you can do. You're getting to cherry pick the best customers in only 1 year. Why are you moving?
So we've had a couple different goals kind of throughout life. We've been looking for land in this area for about 3 years now. I live in a very expensive area of Wisconsin. The reason that it's expensive is a lot of people retire here. We are in kind of the winter home of the winter summer home people, or I'm sorry, in the summer home side of winter summer home people.
I was wondering who would choose Wisconsin in the winter, but
people who like to ski and snowshoe. All insane people. You'll find me inside by a fireplace. And that's the other half of it, right? So I have pitched multiple states over the last several years as we've looked for land in this area. And around here, land is very expensive. Like raw land is hundreds of thousands of dollars. B, building codes are insane. There's building restrictions everywhere for everything. Everything has to get inspected. And that's how it runs here. And I'm not going to try to change it, because on the few instances that I have stuck my head into government establishments, it hasn't been super successful or my favorite thing. So we've kept running into walls there. And long-term play a few years ago, we were thinking we'll just stay in this house and save money and save money and save money, and figure out how to buy a farm. We'd like a hobby farm was our goal. And in that process, I pitched out a lot of different states to look at. I was like, let's look at Virginia. Let's look at Tennessee. Gonna look at Florida. I'm really glad we didn't move to Florida after the massive influx, because that was probably the highest on the list of ones that Logan would consider. But pretty much consistently have been like, yeah, I don't love this. Yeah, I don't love this. So we met the Bear Independent team briefly at Self Reliance a year ago, and met maybe even a strong word. We've made eye contact with. But I remember, I think it was Saturday afternoon, it was like a lunch break. I was sitting on the table that's right outside the SOE door, just like recharging my social battery, because I tend to run strong introvert, and I could hear there sitting at the picnic table kind of across the porch talking to like, I don't know, he had a little crowd around like 8 to 10 people, just discussing the Bible and his different takes on. He's teaching people, he's like answering questions and not berating people. Like, he's not judgmental. He was being who he said he was online. And no one was recording him. And that's I think a big takeaway when it comes to media is like, are you who you say you are when there's not a camera on you, or are you just like that when someone's filming? Because it's really easy to just be like that when someone's filming. Like, you know when you're on and you can turn on your character, your personality, whatever. Then they left. The majority of the team left because that was the day that the tornado hit Mississippi. And I was following along like what they were doing with Grindstone Ministries, the community that they built out that was helping those people, that was taking care of that. And we decided that we wanted to be a part of that. Like, they were who they said they were. And even though we're really far away from their operating zone, we still wanted to be involved. And so we signed up for Patreon so we could kind of keep an eye on what was going on there. We also signed up for the Grindstone deployment emails and that summer put in our initial application to volunteer with Caleb House. We were anticipating going to volunteer with things this coming summer. We ended up getting an invitation to volunteer last fall. Stuff lined up. Different events had fallen through. Our schedule had gotten much clearer than it should have been very suddenly. And we looked at each other, and they had asked if we could come in like 10 days from when they'd emailed, which is not normally possible for me. I plan my life 6 months in advance in any given time, and we were just available, which I lean towards that being hand of God. Like, hey, you're supposed to go, like, get in the car. And I don't tend to try and push against that because it usually goes poorly. So we got in the car. It was another meeting strangers from the internet moment. We showed up at an office building that didn't have an address. We were greeted by someone who was very armed. And we looked at each other and we're like, well, we didn't die the last time, so we're probably not going to die this time. And got the opportunity to rub shoulders with people there, to work with people there for, I think we were there for 8 days, meeting people who were who they said they were again. And then we started looking at the opportunities that Oklahoma brought, and the land prices being a lot more reasonable, the building codes being a lot more reasonable, the fact that it's not a massively population dense area, but that there are things available close, which is important to me. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I like a proximity to Walmart. I still buy groceries at the grocery store, so the fact that there is one somewhat nearby is important. And the more we looked at it, the more the opportunity just appealed to us, and our ability to grow business, our ability to build our own home without the regulations that we have here. And then the proximity to Grindstone and to Caleb House, and being able to continue to serve with them and volunteer with them, because that is something that's close to our heart. What Caleb House does, what building codes? There aren't any. It's great. You guys are doing it right. What Caleb House is doing is incredibly close to our hearts, has really opened our eyes to an aspect of the world that I don't think most people want to make eye contact with. And that's why it's still a problem, is because we're not looking at the fact that what they're doing needs to be done. And for context, for anyone who doesn't know what Caleb House is, it's Caleb with a K. They're a juvenile human trafficking restoration facility. So they are rescuing American kids from American trafficking situations, and then taking the time to put them back together again for as long as they need to be put back together again. They're not throwing them back in the foster care system. Foster care is one of the primary avenues of trafficking for kids in the US. And so when you do that, oftentimes the same kid gets rescued over and over again
Multiple
because
times.
they continue back into that same system that they were in. So we want to be able to do something about that. And proximity is important for us in order to continue to serve with that ministry.
So to expand a little on that, DHS only has some 600 beds through the entire United States to provide that. When she says as long as they need to, typically the people that care for those children, those are their parents for the rest of their lives. They can come back home. They can come back to that area. It's a very cool program. You guys should all look into it. If you are not aware of this, you should check out Caleb House. Bear did a really good interview yesterday with Billy Bond, and went into some numbers I had not heard before that are absolutely insane. We wanted to know if Bear was who Bear said he was also, and I found him during COVID and listened to him every morning. There was a tornado in Kentucky. We packed up everything we could fit in the truck to go up there to drop it off to, assist and donate. But really we went there because I wanted to see if Bear was who he said he was. And we watched Bear for a couple of hours, and we got to eventually introduce ourselves, and we hung out with Bear for a few minutes. I met Angry Prepper and a few other dudes. But Bear is exactly who he says he is, whether that camera's on or not. I've spent a lot of time with him. He's been here many times. We've done podcasts and stuff, but the conversations we have upstairs, without the cameras, those are even better than what you guys see when the camera is on. And people are very drawn to Bear, and Bear will tell you that's not me. I didn't, but he is. It is Bear. No matter what credit he wants to take, a lot of people are on that walk in life and on that journey now, and it's because of Bear. And he will never take credit. And I heard him say something. One of my guys just asked me, "Hey, will Bear baptize me in the pond if he comes to SRF?" And I said, "I don't know. I heard Bear yesterday said he doesn't need to baptize you. It's more important that somebody baptizes you." But I think he's wrong about that. I think that people are on that path now and open to it, and they've always felt like they were missing something, and it is because of Bear that they are now open to that, and it is in their lives now.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that.
And so you're upping your life and moving to Oklahoma to be closer to the Bear Nation. Did it make that decision easier to make because you had developed the skills in building a business over the last year?
Yeah, I think if we wouldn't have had the financial reinforcement of, hey, you can do this and this can feed you, and comfort is flexible. I spent 8 months living overseas. Several months of that was in the Middle East. Comfort is not that important. But there are some baselines where it's like, I need to be able to feed myself, and continue to love my life to some degree. And knowing that we could do that we had skill sets that were worth paying for, and that people were willing to pay for them, was hugely comforting. But also, you led into Bear and will Bear baptize me, and how he's impacted people. At the root of it all, I just believe that the Father's going to feed us. He's promised that he's going to provide, and he hasn't skipped a beat on me yet. And if he fed me in a 1-bedroom apartment in the middle of the city, and he provided when I lived in the Middle East, and we made it back home, and we're just gonna, this is the next adventure, right? He just put the path in front of us. And I think we always have choices. You can decide to stay where you are and keep loving people and keep doing what you're good at and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I think we could stay here and we would still be successful and be happy. But we got the opportunity to do something bigger and to take the leap and burn the boats and actually go commit to doing this full time, being being the Lampost Collective, like being us full time. And I know it's not everybody's relationship, but I've seen it, John, with you and Amanda. Like, you clearly love being with her.
Absolutely.
She's just like, you guys love working together. The way you treat her just comes through, like in your social media and in your podcast, and the way that you even interacted with her for the brief time that I saw you in person. Like, you adore her and she pushes you and you grow each other. And that's how I feel about Logan as well. Like, the ability to work together and to be able to wake up in the morning and get in the car and go to work and be together while we do that, and while we serve people, and while we build something for someone else, for ourselves, whatever we're doing, not having to roll out of bed at 6 a.m. and be like, bye, I'll see you, tonight, 12 hours, 16 hours. Like, I'm actually going to be able to spend time with him in the context that we're going to be building on, and by building business together. And that's why I married him. It wasn't to ship him off 60 hours a week. Like, I actually like the guy. And so I'm really excited for that opportunity to be able to do things together, and to travel together, and to continue to do conferences. And like, we're coming to Self Reliance Festival again because we got it to work out this time. Next year I'll make it to the LFTN workshop. This year I will be driving a U-Haul for that. So
What, you're not going to drive your U-Haul here and then move to Oklahoma?
Yeah, if it wasn't like the most uncomfortable triangle to make that work.
How long you guys been married?
Almost 7 years.
You guys ever fight?
Less so now. I'm the argumentative one. I'm like really stubborn, and a lot more aggressive. He's very laid back, which is good, because otherwise I think we'd kill each other. But we have a good dynamic as far as balancing each other out. So usually one of us is mad at a time.
Got it. You guys mentioned U-Haul. For anybody that's not aware, you guys can rent a U-Haul for $20 a day. So when guys are like, I can't afford, if you're really committed, for $20 a day, you can get a U-Haul. Like, I see people living in them.
Is there a cheat code for that?
I don't think there is. It says $20 a day on the side of the box. I think you just go rent that thing.
So I think they have mileage restrictions on the $20 a day.
Yep. It's 200 miles a week, I think, something like that.
Yeah. That's different than,
I ran for the big one. I definitely got a higher bill than that, but we're moving about 800 miles. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're one-weighing it too, right?
We had a dude show up. We had a dude show up and live in a U-Haul for a few weeks.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yep.
It has air conditioning.
Well, the box doesn't. The box doesn't have air conditioning.
Sleep in the cab.
Yeah. Have you guys ever built out tiny houses?
We haven't. This will be our first. When we move, we're going to build a tiny house first on the property, and we're planning on about 3 months for that build out. And it'll be our first go at it. I've been playing with blueprints, and it's the same thing as a giant remodel, just smaller, being more strategic with the layout. We have the restriction of the trusses are already on property. We're actually going to steal them from a different building. So I have the width of the building that has to be what it is, and then I'm just playing with the rest of the dimensions.
So you're not starting with a shed. You're going to build ground up then.
Yeah. We'll live in the mobile home for a few months, and then we'll build out the tiny and sell the mobile.
Are you going to put that on piers? Or are you going to put that on a basement or a slab, or what are you going to do?
We'll put it on a slab. Kind of like we can do anything, but I'm not digging a basement when the water table is like 60 centimeters.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, pretty much if you dig a hole, a pond is created on the property that we built. So we'll definitely be above ground only for the most part.
Oh, that's not terrible if you're going to have livestock.
No, and we will have livestock. I have horses, so we'll bring those with after a couple of months, and then we'd like to get into beef cattle eventually. We have the space for it once we put in the infrastructure. We've bounced around the idea of sheep. It's just we have a pretty strict one living thing a year rule. So we don't add more than one living breed. So like obviously we can add multiple sheep if we added sheep, but not adding all the things in the same year, because then something dies.
Well, sheep were a heavy lift for tactical and me, but more for tactical.
Well, you do the moving fences.
Yeah, we rotate them. That is true. I mean, ruminants do better if you rotate them. Cattle too, from a pest perspective and from regenerating if you're trying to use them to build your soil. But it is a lot of work. Although, so I have not messed with cattle because they're huge, and I can take a ram and throw him on his side and do what I got to do to the ram if I have to do that. And then between tactical and me, we can also do that. I can't do that to a cow. If a cow doesn't want to be thrown on its side, it's not going to be thrown on its side. But the people I know who raise cattle and rotate them, train them to one wire. So I think they're a little bit more programmable than sheep on the fencing part.
Yeah,
if you keep them, a good thing.
If you keep them in like a fairly small area, and basically have a wire running down the middle that's whatever color you're going to have your fencing in, and you light that thing up like hot, as far as your fencer, let them zap themselves a few times, they'll figure it out, and then you don't have to have the same level of current everywhere else. My horses are trained on white poly wire, and at this point I can contain them with like white kite string, because any white string is fire and will bite them.
That's really helpful. Sheep seem to know when over time that they don't hear the tick or something, and they'll be on the other side of it.
So, yeah, they'll go up and
not as bad as goats, but they still will be like, I'm not sure that still works. Does that still work?
Yeah.
So Ferguson and Greg Judy both say run AC current, super hot, because anytime plants grow up, it zaps them, and they're never going to ground out. If you're running super high power through that thing, you don't ever have to worry about cleaning those fence lines. What kind of horses you got?
I've got a quarter horse and an Appaloosa.
Why do you have, are they pets, or do they have a use? Do you use them?
I used to ride competition drill team through like end of middle school through college. I ran a rodeo circuit with it's basically like the opening flag ceremonies, and it's a synchronized horseback routine. There was 8 of us in the arena, and you basically run at each other for the crowd thrill seek. So we did pretty intricate patterns, and I traveled with a couple of different teams. At this point, I don't have the time to ride a lot. One of my horses is retired. He's one of those animals that just gets a free pass because I've had him for close to 18 years now. And he is a really easy keeper. Like he costs me nothing.
So those don't live at your house right now, correct?
No, they live at my parents'.
Got it. So they're gonna travel with you?
Yeah, we'll go down, and then I already am scheduled to be back up here for an event in July, and so I'll come and get them then, most likely. Awesome. We'll have time to put in pasture fences and water and that sort of thing. But yeah, the Appaloosa is a workhorse. Like, he's capable of it. He knows how to move cattle. He knows how to pull things. Like, he's good infrastructure, since I don't yet own a 4-wheeler.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
I would posit that it's more comfortable on a horse going up those hills when you have hills than a 4-wheeler. Having had to take a year to teach myself to go up and down the hills here, it took me forever. Like, I can drive anything, but I was always afraid I was going to roll a 4-wheeler here.
Yeah, they'll go just about anywhere as long as they trust you and they don't require fuel. So as far as a prepper flex, horses are not a bad choice.
I mean, they do require fuel, just not gasoline.
Yeah, their fuel grows out of the dirt almost everywhere. So as long as you take care of your soil, you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I've learned how to do, I would say, 90% of the care myself. So my input costs are incredibly low. I know the argument against them is often like, I don't want a money pit. Like, it's a money pit if you decide it's a money pit. It's kind of like anything.
Well, it also depends where you get the horse. In 2009, we had the real estate crash from in 2008, right? And so 2009, things were a little tight in my county, and people started releasing their horses to the wild. And so on more than one occasion, we had horses running all over my property.
That's dangerous.
Being chased by studs. Like, yeah, because they were in season, and it was crazy to me to think like you've invested in this animal and there's a relationship there, and you're just going to let the horse go die in the woods. Like, we have skeletons in the woods for the ones we couldn't find, because that's what's going to happen to a horse.
Yeah.
If you just let them go. But
and
we were able to catch some and like drive them into my neighbor's pasture, but it was nuts.
We have that happening right now in this county with dogs and roosters.
Yeah,
tons of them.
Yeah, I mean, and horses are not necessarily bright when they're not used to being out either. Like, they will run in front of vehicles, and like that's a really big deer-shaped creature to hit. Like, I have big horses, but I'm ranking in at like, one of them's probably close to 1,000 pounds, the other's probably 1,300. Like, it's not small to hit that.
I would like to have war horses.
That's what Logan wants to. So if you find a source, we're in.
Oh, we got them, Percherons.
Yeah, I can't do Percheron feet. I think I'm just doing like a half draft, because then I want the speed of it too. And Percherons are not fast.
Yeah, but that's what they're jousting with, though. I mean, that's what
like
what
a
they're using.
Percheron quarter horse.
If you got to pull stumps or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the Amish. There's a lot of them around.
Yeah.
Isn't it more about how you train the horse, though?
Both and. I mean, some of them are naturally inclined to certain behavior types. There are horses that will herd cows on their own. Like, one of mine cannot be in a pasture with cows because he will run them to death for fun.
Yep, like having a border collie.
Yep, yeah.
Just a really big border collie.
Yes. Yeah. Horses can be assholes to other animals too, man.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Like, you'll see them just tear up other animals.
They're incredibly sizist. Like, if something is a lot smaller than them, they just hunt it for sport. So you can't.
New word.
You can't run horses with sheep. You can rotate them after, but
you can run a donkey with sheep, though.
But donkeys are cool.
Donkeys will kill babies, though. Like, there is tons of donkeys that just destroy. You'll see them with goats and baby sheep, just throwing them up in the air.
They'll also destroy coyotes.
Yes, but the dogs take care of that, and then we don't have the problem with the dogs with the babies that you do. Like, and I'm sure it's not all donkeys, but there's a ton of stuff when I'm in those livestock groups about donkeys just destroying during season when they're giving birth.
Like right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got to see what our livestock guardian dogs do when a baby is born for the first time, because usually it's just like the babies are there. Mm-hmm. And they're actually super helpful in the process. Like, they come up and help, and ours do. They help lick the afterbirth off the whatever amniotic stuff off the lamb while the other ones are being born. And yeah, it was very interesting because the mom let the dogs get close, and I was very surprised. And then I saw they were kind of working together on getting everybody up. So,
how old are your LGDs now?
3.
Okay.
Almost 3. Yeah.
Where did they settle out in size?
Oh, I have no idea how much they weigh, but like
waist height, like rib height.
Yeah, so the head comes up here.
Okay.
On them, and I mean, they're probably 150 max. I would say about 150 pounds.
Nice.
But they're, surprised. I was a little surprised because I was worried they would think that like young babies were tasty snacks, but nope.
Oh, they understand it's a sheep. That's their job.
Yep.
Is your giant, like your really big dog, John, out with your sheep, or is he like in your parking lot?
Well, he was with my sheep, and then he decided he wanted to eat my male sheep. So
Oh
he
no.
he mauled he mauled the male. So I have a new Pyrenees puppy. She's probably 6 months old, and she's probably, I don't know, she might be 100 pounds right now. She's big. She's going to be really big. That came from Bob's dogs, and he has that set of parents is pregnant again, so he will have some really good, like, we didn't train that dog or anything. She does everything she's supposed to do. She doesn't cross the gate threshold when the gates are open. You'll go out there and look for her and you can't find her, and she's bedded down with the sheep, like in the group. But the big dogs, they're up in the upper paddock now, without sheep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can probably cure that with a shock collar and a little bit of time, but the immediate fix was just put the new dog out back as she's a puppy and let her grow up with those other sheep.
Yeah. So the question here is, how much training did you do with your dogs to trust them for that test? I did not train them not to eat babies. They just know not to eat the babies. So we spent a good intensive month orienting them on the flock and watching them very carefully with the flock, and they kept getting away and wandering off at first until we had them like location and flock bound. The first week of that, they were only interacting with the sheep through cattle panels, but they had already been trained by their mother on goats. So what we were not sure of is if they would translate well from goats to sheep, but they did fine. And they've been with these sheep for a year and a half now. So yeah.
Most of the problems with livestock dogs and livestock are poultry. And you kind of, like, for 6 months they'll chase them around, and the big dogs will put a beating on the little dogs when they chase poultry. But then sometimes you'll just come home and you're like, that dog is doing something it's not supposed to do. And when you call it, it stands up and it has had a duck down. And I have a dog that will just get a hold of a duck and pull its feathers out one by one. She won't kill it. She'll just pluck the duck. But it's like a tithing for the first year and a half, 18 months of those dogs. Every now and then they're going to gobble down a chicken or a duck, and then they just stop doing it. Like, my older dogs don't do it at all. The puppies will definitely, like, Hera, my female Kangal, I came home and you can always tell because they lay there and they're looking at you like, oh, I just got caught, but they don't get up. And when you call her, she had a turkey down on the ground, and she had picked every feather out of that turkey. And she'd been with that turkey for, I don't know, 9 months probably. And she stripped that bird completely naked. And it's just, I don't have any problems with them with the other stuff. Now, the big dog, he would chase those sheep a little bit. And the ram, I think he was just kind of more playful, but the ram would turn around and kind of chase him off. And one day he just got a hold of that ram, and the ram's still out there. It healed up. It's just a little, like, crooked now.
Yeah, I feel that dogs, if you're able to cross over your dogs, they tend to translate to each other what's expected. I had a German Shepherd growing up who I did competition stuff with, and we crossed her over with my parents' Shepherd St. Bernard cross, who just looks like an Anatolian. And she translated everything to her. Like, we put no work into that puppy. She was 8 weeks old. We dumped her with the German Shepherd. We were like, good luck to you. Taught her, like, everything from where the property lines are to what was acceptable to chase to where she was expected to poop. And then when I got my German 2.5 years ago, I dropped her off with my parents' cross and was like, okay, you learn from the best. See you later. And translated it all over. Like, here's the property lines, here's what's acceptable to chase. We've even taught dogs the difference between acceptable birds and unacceptable birds.
Jack says the same thing.
Yeah, so we really, really don't like guinea hens. Just not a fan. And my parents have a game farm somewhat close to them, and so occasionally we'll get the random bird that just walked off. So we've had a couple of pheasants join the chicken flock, and one day a guinea hen just appeared. and I taught their dog how to differentiate between guinea hens and chickens. And she would launch herself over the flock of chickens because she's not allowed to disturb them, and chase the guinea hen and tree it. And then she'd just keep it in the tree all day. And she'd come get you and show you that she put it in the tree. And I think one day it just disappeared. But
Pellet
yeah,
rifle
dogs
takes
are,
care of that.
yeah, they're very trainable. Well, the entertainment value of watching that dog hunt that guinea hen.
So we use guinea hens here. We have them, and they have a lot of different alerts. But when they have especially aerial predators, they have an alert for that. And my dogs come running when the guineas. If you ever watch guineas, they'll all have their heads down eating, but they always have a sentry, and he's usually on a mound of dirt or something up higher. And as soon as he comes down, another one will assume that position and take the higher ground if it's there. But when the guineas alert to overhead predators, my dogs come from anywhere on the property to get to the guineas. And our dogs have actually gotten a hold of a hawk, and they've chased off an eagle, and they actually work. We have no netting or anything, and we have zero aerial predation because of the guineas and the dogs together. We didn't teach them that. They just did it. And then as far as young dogs with old dogs, my 2 Pyrenees are getting older. One of them is acting very, very old. So we put that puppy out there with them, and we'll actually bring another dog out of the next litter. We'll bring another one in because sooner or later we're going to lose those other 2.
Yeah, I keep wondering what I'm going to do with my LGDs when they're old and how that's going to work, because they've never been inside a house.
But they will.
Yeah.
Or a barn or something. They're just going to become lazy, and they'll be pets that we'll take care of.
Yeah.
Or they roll into that teaching mode where at that point you might have enough sheep that you're running separate flocks, and you put one old dog, one young dog with each as you make that transition.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like with the aggressiveness of those dogs, the Pyrenees will stay a little. Pyrenees will wander if you let them out. But those Anatolians, they have so much more aggression and size, and they're quicker to move. They use them for heavier predator loads like mountain lions, bears, brown bears especially. You see a lot of those bigger dogs out west. But we'll interfence. We'll fence the property and then put paddocks inside there, so my dogs can get around those paddocks, so nothing can get to those animals. And we'll keep the poultry. Like, I have chickens that just roam everywhere because they know their freedom. But the new chickens, as we put them into pens and we chicken wire the fence, they'll stay inside that area protected because the dogs can get all the way around them. We've got coyotes and all bobcats on the game cameras outside, but the dogs kill anything that comes over that fence.
Yeah,
have you ever found a predator animal dead that was of any size inside your fence?
No, not a predator animal. I mean, they've got hold of a raccoon. They've killed some possums. My dog, Hera, my female, she eats more mice than the cats eat. Like, you'll come out and you're like, what in the world happened here? She's turned over railroad ties and she's after the mice. She literally will get them, throw them in the air and catch them and then gobble them up. Those dogs move like cats.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Alabama says mine hated the house. Yeah, I can't imagine ours liking the house at all. Yeah, like I had the vet made me take them into the vet last time we went, and one of those animals will never go inside that vet again. I know. So I'm currently looking for a mobile vet for my dogs because my livestock vet won't do the dogs.
Yeah, we had to crate up one of the female Pyrenees. The other dog, they were kind of some food aggression, and she's just too big. She was a puppy and ripped one of the Pyrenees' paws open. And we took her in, they sutured it up, and then she licked it so much that the sutures came out, and she sewed it again. And finally he had to sew buttons on both, literally like shirt buttons on both sides of the wound, and then lace it together so that it would pull back up. And we had her in muzzles, and she would get the muzzles off. She would chew the cone up. We finally put a sock. Like, we had to lock her down for, man, I don't know, 2 weeks. We had to crate her up and take her out every hour or so. And we'd go, like, when we went to Memphis on the weekend, we took the dog with us just to make sure she was, not moving around and everything. We had her crated up. She finally healed up.
Yep, that's a lot of work. We need more vets in our network, guys. Just saying.
Yeah.
The more of us who homestead, we need more veterinarians.
Yeah, vets who also like aren't afraid of horses, please.
Yeah.
We got a buddy that set up horse boarding on his property so that he could have a vet. The vet actually stays on the property, and the vet does a lot of other things other than vet. But he put in horse boarding specifically to hire a vet and keep the vet on property so that he had access to her. But vets, if you can sew a horse, you can sew a human.
Yeah.
We need to look into getting an LGD of some sort when we move, but it'll be an interesting integration with the German Shepherd because she's the same way, like does not want to be in the house. Like she's locked in my office right now because her alternative is fence patrol and she'll bark. And she hates it. So I'm like, maybe put her out, but she's like, I don't know that she would do livestock. I don't know that we could integrate that. And I kind of want a dog that's just out with the livestock and like not in the house.
Yeah, having them move with your livestock is key for a couple of reasons. One, if they're going in and out, like you need them out at night.
Yeah.
Right. And then they also, I don't think my dogs would be as aggressive if I tried to get them to do that. Like I know they'll kill raccoons and possums and stuff, but they're more concerned about, the house at night than anything else. And so trying to shift that demeanor would be a big lift, I think.
Yeah, I also like having her in the house at night because that is why we got her.
Yeah. Yes, early alarm system. They will definitely go off. So far, we've avoided the LGDs killing my dogs. So,
which is good.
Yeah. They seem to know when my dogs are not in the fence that they don't go after my dogs because they've been over here and seen the dogs, and there's been hackles up, but no like instant slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
But the LGDs have instant slaughtered coyotes. So
yeah, it's one of those things.
Like they know, maybe they smell familiar because I smell like I don't know what it is, but yeah. And so far, my dogs haven't been like, "Are you talking to me?" Because that is the wrong thing to do.
Somebody asked about I think they meant Akbashes, but the Asian shepherds and the central shepherds, those are big dogs. You typically see them westward, long-haired dogs. You'll see people say, I wouldn't have a husky wherever because it's because of the fur, but the Pyrenees do great here. And I was thinking, like with my Kangles, those are short-haired dogs, and we provided all kinds of stuff over winter for all of the dogs. They've got igloos and straw and the whole deal, and those dogs sleep out. Like I've come out several times and thought, man, the dog's dead. It's out in the ice, and when you call it, it just looks up, and when you finally pet it, it's got frozen ice crystals all over them. Short hair or long hair, the temperature doesn't seem to affect either dog really.
Yeah, my German stays out pretty much all the time. She's got a dog run that goes into the garage. The garage is not heated, just insulated, and she'll use that if it gets really windy. But yeah, and she's a short-haired German Shepherd, and she'll just sit out there down to like, she starts to ask to come in at like -20, and she's like, okay, I need to warm my feet up. But apart from that, like if she's inside, she's mad about it.
Anybody that I see questions about the dogs here, anybody that's interested in livestock dogs, there's 3 or 4 super active groups on Facebook. And I know people like, I'm not using Facebook, but that's where the information is. That's where those private groups are. And there is a ton of information, and there are dogs in your state that are available. So even if you're not using Facebook, set up a fake account just to get access to the knowledge there. Same thing with the livestock groups, the chicken groups, the rabbit groups. Man, anything you're looking for, you can just search it and have the answer immediately. And then as far as like heartworms and stuff, your vet will sell you all kinds of heartworm medication, and you can take care of that for like $10 a month. Like there is so much stuff. Ivermectin takes care of heartworms and all kinds of other things. And you don't have to pay those hundreds of dollars a month for that stuff that your vet's going to send you. There are so many other alternatives.
And I think the other thing is when you bring a livestock guardian dog in, the picture in your head may be you're going to bring the dog in and spend a little while orienting it, and then it's going to take care of all the things for you. Be ready to invest some time in that dog. if you're, especially if you're new to it, like you're either going to be building up a puppy, right? Or you have, like, depending on what you buy and where you get it and what habits it has, that can have a huge impact. So John took time to find good genetics, trained presumably by somebody's mother when you're getting your dogs from Bob, right? Because the mother is already a good livestock guardian dog. If you can verify the heredity, that makes a huge difference. I had a friend get one that was oriented on cattle and try to orient it on sheep, and the poor thing, that the dog was bored. The dog was bored with a small number of sheep. And so, like, that can be a huge mistake. So do think about, don't just get the free one. Like, figure out what makes the most sense for your situation. You'll make your life a lot easier, because otherwise you've got an animal that you need to do something with that may be a real pain in your neck.
And when you get in the livestock guardian dog groups, you'll see, hey, this is the type of dog, this is the livestock that it's around. And you'll see them like, hey, this is a great dog, no go with chickens, or this is a great dog, no go with goats. Like you'll know, like, just, I'm telling you, man, it is worth it to get in there and spend a couple hours just reading around in those groups.
Yeah. Plus, people throw hissy fits all the time about what people are doing with their
dogs.
dogs.
Oh, well, you want to see crazy shit, just ask them how to take care of chickens or rabbits.
Yeah. It's just like the canning groups, man.
Just like
everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. Okay, well, I think it's about time to wrap up. Let's go once around the horn. Do you want to start, John?
Sure. SOE Tactical Gear is the name of my website. I do a live video on this YouTube channel, special operations equipment, every night, 9 o'clock. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I do that live video every night of the year. That's it. Check us out. We got 5,000 videos on YouTube. I've got 5 different video series and 2 podcasts that we do every single week. So we're not hard to find. We're on every platform. Usually if somebody interacts with you on social media, it's almost always me.
Alyssa.
You can find me online at Lampost Collective. For Instagram, you can email me, thelampostcollective@gmail.com, if you want to have a conversation about building something. And honestly, if you're going to go support something, go support Caleb House. CalebWithAK.org. Go find them, go figure out their mission. They currently are looking for monthly donors. So if you have $5, $10, $20 a month that you are willing to commit to an organization that wants to do bad things to bad people and rescue kids from bad situations, go find them and go support them.
Yeah, so that's calebhouse.org, KALEBHOUSE.org. They are one of the 2 organizations we raise money for at the Self Reliance Festival. And traditionally, we would be raising money for the Caleb House at this Self Reliance Festival, but we decided to switch it because Bear's coming in October. And we figured it would be better to pair him with the fundraiser. But it's definitely worth looking into. They just did their first event, the Ruckus, I think a week ago. It was only a week ago, right?
Yeah, the Ruckus was like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it looked like a really good time. I hope to make it to the next year one. Definitely check that out, guys. And in 2 weeks, if you want to meet John Willis in person, if you want to meet Alyssa in person, if you want to meet me in person, and get to know the kind of contacts and people who are like you, who are ready to go do stuff, who are ready to help you do stuff when you show them that you will actually do stuff, check out selfreliancefestival.com. We've got great speakers. We've got a bunch of cool demos happening. We've even got the Alaska Chainsaw Mill guy. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And it's all over at selfreliancefestival.com. Have a great